Zuko here. Yeah. It's rough, buddy.
Avatar: The Last Airbender had its live-action remake adaptation premiere February 22nd of 2024. Avatar: The Last Airbender is my favorite animated series of all time. It is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And so coming from that perspective and going in and watching this, I already went in with a lot of love, a lot of hopes. I did try to get through this series as a fan and had a lot of struggles with it. I tried to get through this series and watching it as if it was something completely new and completely different from the animated series, and I still couldn't do it, still couldn't watch it. And then I tried to watch it as if it was a fan film, and that was really the only way I could kind of accept some of the things that were going on.
This is obviously going to be a lot of spoilers. This is going to be a lot of me telling you exactly what's going on in the live action version. I've watched the whole series. If you don't want to know what's going on, I would not watch this video, but for the rest of you who have watched it or are looking for an honest, blunt review of the show, that is what this is. So first off, let me just start by saying that this show is leagues above M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's production of Avatar: The Last Airbender. The very first scene of Avatar, this live action version, it starts off really strong. I mean, you're watching it. It starts off with this like Earthbender running through the Fire Nation. He's got some secret intel or whatever, and it's like high stakes. It's like high intensity. It's action. We get to see the bending right away. And I was like a little kid in a candy store. I thought this was so cool. I thought this was so exciting. I was like, yes, this is a strong start to this series. We're getting to actually see some bending. It looks phenomenal. The fight choreo is phenomenal. Throughout the entire series, the fight choreo is great. The actual bending itself is fantastic. But then we go from this really strong opening. We're like, okay, they're doing something a little bit different. We kind of like that. We kind of expected that, because if they were just going to take exactly what was in the cartoon and just make it live action, then there'd be no point. But they actually started to do something a little bit different. Was so excited to see where they went. And then this series opens up with Aang flying. And I don't mean with his glider. I mean, he's actually like Superman flying. Okay. It's specifically said that flying is a very, 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 very nearly impossible thing to do for a bender unless you're really, 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 really powerful. And you might think, well, hey, he's the Avatar. But they literally go to a point to say in The Legend of Korra that no airbender has actually ever been able to fly. And there's the myth and the legend that only one airbender has figured out how to fly. And it's by getting rid of earthly attachments, and getting rid of all attachments to the physical world is the only possible way to fly.
I wasn't sure I could. Only one other airbender in history had the ability.
How'd you figure out how to do it?
I found true freedom. I am no longer bound to this earth by worldly desires. I have entered the void.
And we're starting off the series in this way that Aang is flying, and it already just kind of takes away a lot of the growth that his character can go through, and talking about him being attached to the physical realm and all those kinds of things. We're already robbed of that just by seeing him fly. And then later on, you think, well, maybe this is just something that they're proceeding to say that all airbenders can fly. Nope, no one else does it. And Aang, you think, okay, well, maybe he just flies because he's the Avatar. Nope, because the rest of the series, he uses his hang glider. But for whatever reason, this opening, they wanted a strong opening for this kid, and they made him fly. And it just kind of it already put a big frown on my face when I was watching it, because I'm like, there's nowhere for him to really grow in terms of like this power, because the ultimate power of the airbender is to fly. So there's nowhere for him to grow in terms of his skills in that respect. Also, we're already throwing a wrench in this idea of earthly attachment just not really being a part of the mythos at all. And also, again, he never uses that for the rest of the series. He always just goes and hang glides. And that's like, then what's the point of having him fly?
What?
How? Are you sure? I wouldn't believe it either if I hadn't seen it for myself.
I've heard the legends about Guru Lahima's ability to fly, but I never imagined they were true.
But I will say, other than that, it was a very strong opening. And again, I was really excited to dive in. My mouth was dropped. My eyes are wide. I was very excited to get into it, and just the longer the series went on, the more and more I just my soul was just crushed. And my partner was watching with me, and she's even said, "Well, can you start thinking about the things that you do enjoy about this series?"
And that is, number one, the music. And the reason is because they essentially just pull the music from the show. They take the main themes of the show and they pull it into the live action. Great, fantastic, we love it. Great score by Jeremy, and great score going into the live action. We get to keep some of our favorite pieces of music. And not to mention the fact that the audio is just pretty good quality throughout the rest of the show. The sound effects of the animals are great. The sound effects of the bending is phenomenal. And the music that is incorporated, that is different, is still really nice. So kudos to that. And for the visuals of the show, I gotta say, the CGI and the fight choreo and the sets and the look of the world is fantastic. It is so beautiful. It is so stunning. You feel like you're in a magical world. I would have liked to see a few more bit of the creatures from Last Airbender and getting to see more of the animals of the series, but CGI of the animals, great.
And I will say that I commend the costumers for wanting to paint their characters really screen accurate. So if you're a fan of the Last Airbender TV show, you go into the live action, they literally just took exactly what they were wearing and just made them in person exactly the same way.
This goes to show that all those fans that complained about the superhero movies for the superheroes not having comic book accurate costumes, after watching this, I can kind of see why. Because even though they tried to get screen accurate with the costumes for the live action series, it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for live action. It doesn't work. It looks like the actors are wearing costumes. It looks like we're watching, again, a fan film with a bunch of people cosplaying. It doesn't look real. It doesn't look like it's a part of the real world. It doesn't look like it could be a part of the real world, and it really is distracting and takes you out of the moment. One of the biggest letdowns in terms of costuming / makeup was, in fact, Zuko's scar. This is one of the most defining traits of the character, is that his face is deformed because it was burned. And so what we see with the live action remake is we just see that he just kind of just has this little purple makeup over his eye. Otherwise it looks completely normal, nothing to be ashamed about, nothing that anyone would be worried about. When I imagine Zuko's scar in his eye, you think of like actually burned to smithereens, like scorched, scarred for life kind of thing. Like we're talking like almost like Phantom of the Opera ugly in terms of eye. There were a couple of moments where there was obviously some background that was just way obviously fake.
Oh, you think I'm being reckless?
But overall, for the most part, I really did enjoy the visuals and the sets and the locations and all of that kind of stuff for the world. The biggest letdown of the show was the writing. The writing itself. It feels like it was written by ChatGPT. None of the dialogue is really that realistic, and it all is just full of characters telling us what's going on, telling us what's happening, telling us how they feel, telling us the things that they've grown, the things that they've learned, without us actually seeing any of it.
I know I shouldn't have taken your notebook. I'm sorry. It's been a lifesaver. Really. You have information on all the past avatars that no one else has. All the air nomad monks, they're all gone. So all I had was your notebook. I can't tell you how many nights I stayed up reading it. You helped me a lot. I mean, it helped me a lot.
And that is the scene that really just drives me up the wall. And we see countless of examples of that throughout the series.
You don't want to just sit there and tell the audience, one, for media, for film, you don't want to tell people constantly how you feel. And two, you don't want to constantly just tell the audience and just explain things in a way where the audience doesn't actually get to see what these characters are going through and actually see what happens and actually get to see the story take place. It's a visual medium.
I stole your journal, your diary, and it's actually been helping me a lot. I've read it a lot. I read it every night. It really helps me out. It's helping me through so many things. I feel so connected with it.
You don't see that at any point during the show. It's so when a character just rocks up and just says something, it has no meaning in this show. It really has no meaning because we don't see the struggles of the actors. We don't see the struggles of the characters. We don't see a lot of them grow. We don't see a lot of them do a whole lot of things. And it's just this writing, you're getting scenes where you're getting characters that are like, I'm really happy. Or they go, oh my gosh, I'm so sad about that. Or I just can't believe that this, whatever it is. Like they're explaining the emotion rather than just showing the emotion. And that just drives me absolutely up the wall. You don't need to know anything about film to know that the biggest thing that you do in film is to show, don't tell.
And I don't want to be overly critical, and I don't want to sound like I'm just poo-pooing on the show and being super negative, because there's this bandwagon where anything that comes out, everyone just rips it apart to be cool or to be whatever. I don't like doing that. I don't want to be a part of that. But I honestly think that the writing of this show is just really, 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 really bad. Obviously, you can't take the script of the TV show, of the cartoon, and just redo it for the live action, because then everything's going to be exactly the same, and then what's the point, right? So there are some instances in the TV show where they're going to take liberties to change things up and do things a little bit differently, which is totally fine. I love, love, love the scene where the crew is being told the truth about Zuko, and that the fact that he, spoiler, saved them, that his crew were the members that Ozai was going to kill and sacrifice. And so that is why they are his crew, because Zuko stood up for them. I loved that take. It made me emotional, and it earned his respect as a commander. It earned his respect from his crew. They actually built a rapport with each other, unlike the TV show where they kind of just pitied after they found out the truth about Zuko. That was the change that I really admired. That was a change that I actually enjoyed. And I thought if there was more thoughtfulness behind the writing like that, the show would have been exponentially better.
And since you're so concerned with the 41st Division, take them with you as your crew.
But we didn't get a lot of other writing that was like that. Most of the other writing was just way too on the nose and way too straightforward and way too, even less than kiddie. Like the show itself, it was campy, it was fun, it was made for kids, but it also was just completely full of lessons in spirituality and harsh topics, dark topics, heavy topics, like adult topics, and teaching these kids about life and about personal development and all these kinds of things, self-acceptance, self-love, spirituality, openness, flow, all those kinds of things. The show was fun, but it taught us so much. In this live action version, there's none of that. Okay, there's absolutely none of that. Some of the characters try to have heart-to-hearts, but it just falls flat because it's just meaningless. Okay, there's no play with the show. There's no sense of adventure. There's nothing.
And the second biggest issue that I have with this show is the actors, the casting. When you have a show that is so beloved by so many people and everything is laid out for you on a silver platter, you can take actors and hire them to do a slightly different version, a slightly different take if you want for your live action, fine, but you still, one, have to have the core of the character still, and two, you gotta be able to have actors that can actually pull it off, okay?
I watched this and I thought, did they even audition? I will say, Fire Lord Ozai and Suki, that casting was phenomenal. So good. Those actors, great. They fit in the role. They've created more complexity around the characters. They're bringing the core of the characters back to the live action remake, and they're doing their own thing. Phenomenal, okay? Those actors are great. I love what they're doing. I love that they were cast. Everything that they do has been so good so far. Zuko and Azula, they're good actors, but they're missing the core of the characters. I will commend those actors for trying to do their own thing. They're trying to create their own version of the character, but they're missing the whole point of those characters. Zuko, the actor who's playing Zuko, he's a good actor. He's doing his best. He's doing his version. But his main arc, and he does have a little bit of an arc, which I will say is good for the series, but his main arc is just the fact that he's just loyal to his father. That's it. That's it. In the TV show, what's missing from the core of the character of Zuko, who is, in fact, probably one of the most essential characters of Last Airbender, it's Aang and Zuko. That is the story of The Last Airbender. It is their two journeys and them meeting and coming together and all those kinds of things. Again, spoiler, right? But in the show, we get to see Zuko come from such an emotional past of being emotionally manipulated, emotionally abused, physically abused, neglected. He's taken away from his mother. He is literally broken down, and he's made to feel like that is the way life is supposed to be. And he's not allowed to speak up. He's not allowed to embrace his true self. He's not allowed to do anything. And so he has all of this suppressed rage and hatred. He has all of this passion and this fire and this hatred and this rage for himself, for his people, for his family, for his uncle, for everyone out in the world. And he's lashing out aggressively because he's made up of fire. He has all of this energy that he needs to get out of his body, right? And in the cartoon, we get to see him struggle with that and to come to terms with what is the source of that anger? What is the source of that shame?
Who are you angry at?
No one. I'm just angry.
Yeah. Who are you angry at, Zuko?
Everyone. I don't know.
Is it Dad?
No.
Your uncle? Me?
No.
Then who? Who are you angry at?
Answer the question, Zuko.
Talk to us. Come on, answer the question.
Come on, answer it.
I'm angry at myself.
What is the source of his pride and his stubbornness or whatever, his headstrongness? Like what is the source of that? We get to see that, and that's what makes him interesting as a character, because we start to peel the layers back throughout the show to really understand how tortured his character is. And in the live-action version, there's none of that. In the live-action version, it's just kind of like he's just kind of already kind of an upstanding, mature teenager with absolutely no rebelliousness, with absolutely no teenage angst, with absolutely no irritation and anger or whatever. And it's just like, I'm loyal. I'm a prince of the Fire Nation. And there's some things I don't understand. There's some things I'm not ready for, and I kind of feel like I'm not ready for. And my dad left me some makeup on my eye, and now I'm out in the real world, and now I'm like a little bit angry, and I want people to just kind of do what I say. But that's about it. We don't actually get to see a lot of that complexity yet.
Come on! Strike me! You've never held back before!
I will say that I can't completely knock the actor because, again, he's trying to do his own thing, and I commend him for that. But overall, just I watch him and I think this is not Zuko. This is a different character that's slightly interesting in different ways, but he's not Zuko. Same with Azula. They're doing a lot with her character arc and to try to like make it seem like she's this kind of interesting baby-faced mastermind thing going on in the Fire Nation and is completely devoid of the affection of her father or whatever that is. And it's not Azula. It's completely not her. Like there is a part of Azula that revels in being feared, that revels in having power and feeling like she's perfect and actually being this prodigy of a firebender with her father. Everything she does is right. Everything she does is perfect. She's got a chip on her shoulder. She has a superiority complex, and she likes to mess with people. She likes to manipulate people. She likes to dominate people. She likes to do all these kinds of things. She doesn't have. I don't even know how to explain the character of the version in the live action, but it is not Azula. It is not Azula. And in fact, Azula doesn't even need to be in season 1. It didn't make sense for her to be in season 1 at all. And I feel like the part that they kind of threw her into season 1 completely almost ruins the setup for season 2. You know, after we watched the Last Airbender cartoon, we watched this big arc with all these characters, and then the very end, we see Fire Lord Ozai almost for the first time actually sitting behind his fire throne, and Azula comes up and he goes, you know, your uncle is a traitor and your brother is a traitor or whatever. We're gonna send, like, he sends her out. And then you get that gleam of this, like we're getting introduced to a new villain of season 2. It's captivating. It keeps us on the edge of our seats. It wants us to come back to season 2. At the end of season 1 for live action remake, we don't care about anything. At least for me, I wasn't emotionally connected and emotionally resonant with anything. I didn't have any feels by the end of the series. I was like, that's it? That's the ending? And that's not what a series is supposed to do. Art is supposed to elicit emotion within you. It's supposed to make you laugh, make you cry, make you think, make you ponder, give you chills, make you uneasy, make you nervous. It's supposed to elicit something in you. And I watched the series and I didn't really feel anything. And that's kind of my compass when it comes to what is good film and what is good TV nowadays. And one, is it entertaining? Am I engaged? And two, does it make me think in a different way? Does it get stuck in my head? Does it leave me with a message that really makes me contemplate? And does it make me feel something? And this series did not do that, especially given the context that one of my favorite characters of all time is Zuko, and I didn't feel attached to his character whatsoever. So I will say, again, with this casting, there was a lot left to be desired. I do think some of the tertiary characters were fine. Obviously, it doesn't really matter. But there's so many other actors in this show that just were not right for the characters. I mean, my partner, she thought that Sokka was good. She liked Sokka. I thought he was okay. Yue, big letdown. Yue is supposed to be ethereal and magnetic and just innocent and almost otherworldly. And the Yue that we got in the show, not even close. The casting of Boomy, the casting of Gran, the casting of Roku, the casting of Iroh, the casting of Katara, totally make the show suffer. I swear, when I watched Katara talk through some of her scenes on the show, I told my partner I'd never had thought that some actual person in real life could make a character more 2D than its cartoon counterpart. She's a super awesome fan of Katara. Apparently, this is one of her favorite things of all time. You couldn't tell. You'd absolutely not be able to tell that this is her dream role, that this is her favorite show at all, because every single scene that she did, I didn't believe a single thing that she did. And so you have Katara, who's going through in the cartoon, studying and learning and mastering her craft and her art and showing Sokka that there actually is something to be said about waterbending. There are uses for it. There's a magic behind it throughout the entire series, to the point where she gets so confident and she gets so skillful from her practicing that when she comes to Master Paku at the end of the Northern Water Tribe, she's actually able to show him what she can do. She's actually kind of made herself up and built herself up to being an actual waterbending master, right? In the live-action version, all we see Katara do is lift a couple of blobs of water, and then she practices maybe 3 times with 3 different people in a scroll about a water whip, and then suddenly she gets to Master Paku, and she's suddenly like a master, and she suddenly can do all these crazy things that she could never do before. No, she didn't earn that. And then for them to just put in a slip of dialogue like, oh, where'd you learn to do that? And they're like, oh, no, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for the character. And for her to have her emotional scene at the end where she's trying to talk, again, spoilers, when she's trying to talk to Aang as the ocean spirit to confide in him about how he needs to come back because he's her family, that completely doesn't work. She does that when he's at the temple after he's just discovered the death of Mount Gyatso. That is when she does it. She doesn't wait until the end of the series and then give this out of left field spiel out of nowhere that just falls flat from the actress. Like, it's not Aang, it's the ocean spirit, right? So that just completely missed the mark for me. Oh my gosh, there's just so much. Iroh, huge disappointment. Nothing that actor says is funny, nothing that actor says is endearing. His voice does not fit well for a voiceover. All of his heart-to-hearts fall short. I don't understand. He's not the jolly Santa Claus, wise, generous kind of character that we're used to seeing from Iroh, who he has all this experience, all this power, but he chooses not to use them. He chooses to enjoy the little simpler things in life instead because he has to, because of him losing his son, because he was trying to be this ambitious Fire Lord and conquer Ba Sing Se, and he failed. His son died and he gave that up. He realized that wasn't the importance of life, that he really just wanted this true connection to enjoy the simple things and to act. There is a joy and a pride of just having a success in your life that isn't external, that isn't derived from great feats of ambition and conquering like all the other firebenders. Like, that's what makes him so lovable. That's what makes him so interesting, that he's so wise and he chooses joy and he chooses this mature humility and compassion.
If only I could have helped you. Leaves from the vine, falling so slow, like fragile, tiny shells drifting in the foam. Little soldier, come marching home. Brave soldier boy, comes marching home.
And this guy in this show is just not a representation of that whatsoever. And it's just everything he says is awkward. It falls flat. His delivery doesn't make sense. His pacing doesn't make sense.
Zuko, you must try this. It's got... what's it got?
Quail pole egg.
Quail pole egg. Very good for...
Vitality.
Vitality! You must use your tact, your empathy. But most importantly, you need to have sticky rice.
There's so many disservices to the characters and the cores of the characters that are completely missing out, right? They've done Avatar Roku dirty. Don't know what that's about. We went from this.
It's good to see you, Aang. What took you so long? Listen carefully. Sozin's comet will return by the end of this summer, and Fire Lord Ozai will use its power to finish the war once and for all. If he succeeds, even the Avatar won't be able to restore balance to the world. A great danger awaits you at the temple. I can help you face the threat, but only if you are ready.
I'm ready.
Fire!
Avatar Roku.
To this.
And to avert your eyes and hop on one leg. Forgive me, I couldn't resist. It's good to see you, Aang. But what took you so long?
And they gave his awesome bestowed powers to Kyoshi. I get it, that moment was really cool, but Roku is the last avatar that Aang connects with the most. Roku is the powerful Grand Master. He is this grandfather-like figure to Aang, and he's powerful, he's stern, he's discerning, but he's also there to show Aang the way. And throughout this entire series, the avatars aren't really there for Aang. Aang is kind of just like randomly just goes into these spiritual modes, these meditative states, and just talks to each of the avatars, and they're all kind of just weird. Appa and Momo, they weren't even really used. Appa and Momo are complete characters within themselves in the cartoon. And in the live action, they're cute. I'm glad that they're in there, but they're barely used. Half the time I was telling my partner, like, where the heck is Appa? What is he doing in this scene? We don't know. He's a part of Team Avatar. He's not even really a part of the series. And I've obviously been saving this kind of for last, but let's talk about Aang. This kid is so focused. This actor is so focused on just being liked on camera that he's completely missing the whole point of the character. Again, we're missing the core essence of Aang.
What war? What are you talking about?
You're kidding, right?
When we first see Aang in the live-action Airbender, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, he's eccentric and adventurous and spontaneous and just, he's hyper. He's all over the place. Like, there is like a core to him that is like very thoughtful, and he's able to have heart-to-hearts. He's able to have some moments of maturity. But he is a kid. He just wants to play. He just wants to have fun. He wants to share his excitement and the things that he loves with everyone that he meets. He's funny. He's light. He keeps things light, moving, funny, all these kinds of things. And this guy, this actor doesn't do any of that.
We don't get to see him grow at all really throughout this series, other than him just being like kind of smiling to just then having a serious moment, and then just kind of smiling and then having like a serious moment.
No. One of the biggest character arcs of Aang is the fact that he's playing, he's exploring, he wants to do all these different things. And then all of the sudden, because of the circumstances of the world around him, his elders come to him and say, they put him through a test, right? And they say, pick some of these relics or blah, 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 blah. And then they show him, hey, all these relics that you chose are from your past lives. It's confirmation that you are the Avatar. You're a reincarnation of the Avatar. This is kind of like the Dalai Lama, right? The Dalai Lama is put through a test to make sure that they are the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. That is exactly what is going on in The Last Airbender. That is kind of a modern version of the Avatar. And what we see here is they don't do the test with Aang. They just tell him he's the Avatar. And in the cartoon, he goes through the test. They tell him he's the Avatar, and it freaks him out because he's a child. So he doesn't just fly off on Appa to clear his head and to think straight like an adult would do. No, he jumps up on Appa and he runs away.
Geez, Uncle, you're the Avatar, ain't you?
That's right.
Well, don't be so smiley about it. The Avatar disappeared for 100 years. You turned your back on the world.
Don't yell at him. Aang would never turn his back on anyone.
Oh, he wouldn't, huh? Then I guess I must have imagined the last 100 years of war and suffering.
He runs away. And this is a big character arc with the character because later on, he has to deal with the shame and the guilt. And there actually comes the guilt and shame of finding out when he wakes up 100 years later that now all of his family is dead. All of his cousins, siblings, or whatever, all of his relatives, his friends, his family, they're all dead. Then he has a reason to feel guilty and to be ashamed because he was given a sense of responsibility and a mantle to uphold as the Avatar to protect the people, to protect the world. But he chose to run away. He has this character flaw. He has this character opportunity to grow. So if the live action version completely strips this away, and we don't, then there's almost no point when he comes to and everyone's like, hey, oh, well, you kind of been asleep for 100 years. Right? And he's like, oh my gosh, I feel so guilty. I wasn't there to protect them. And it's like, that's a bit of a stretch. Like you literally just flew away for a second and got caught in a storm. Like how much can you really blame yourself for that? As opposed to like actively choosing to run away from your people and then finding out that they died and thinking, oh, I should have been there. I chose to run away from my problems and my responsibilities and my duties. That's a huge character arc for Aang in the series, and they completely leave that out.
Aang in The Last Airbender live action, who was the exact same character from episode 1 to episode 8.
And I know that you're not supposed to get your hopes up in these kinds of things, and you should just love that these things are being created and getting more of this lore, getting more of this character. But when you watch an entire series, and the best part of the series is the little cabbage man nod and the secret tunnel nod, that's saying a lot about this whole series. Literally the best moment of this entire show was the cabbage man. I'm going to give him some love here. That is the greatest part of this entire series, and also followed by
Secret tunnel, through the mountains. Secret tunnel. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. The fans absolutely wanted this, but otherwise, oh my goodness, this show could have been saved had they actually had really good writing and had they actually just recast this entire show. And okay, so I get it in terms of taking an entire series and wanting to crush it down to a live action version that's just like 8 episodes. You're taking like 21 episodes, 22 episodes or whatever, and then you're going to crush it down to 8, and you're going to try to make an entire series that uses all like the major characters and things like that. Totally get it. Obviously, it's going to be difficult. But my goodness, if they were going to do that, what they should have done was just focused on the elements. If this live action version really wanted to be successful, really wanted to do something different, all they would need to do, and this is what I would do, is to do each season based on the elements and only pull the episodes from the series that deal with the element and put that as its series. Season 1 is water. It's about the element of water. What is water? Water is the element of flow, emotion, letting things go, finding the flow, being in the flow, right? It's about spiritual oneness. It's about emotional intelligence, all these kinds of things, right? If you're going to do that, have the whole first series just be about Aang learning about the importance of the element of water, being able to let go of his past, being able to let go of the emotional guilt and burdens and shame that he's developed throughout the season because of his inability to stand and do what he's supposed to do, right? That is a huge thing. Water's also the element of healing. We should be able to see him heal throughout the series, the guilt, the emotionality of waking up 100 years later and actually processing. Yes, he's a kid, but actually processing the fact that he is 1, the last airbender. 2, his entire family died. 3, he's in a completely new world. Aang is 100% against violence and war, and he is taken 100 years into the future where he is now literally a part of a world that is full of corruption and violence and war. There has to be something with this element of water with book 1 where they can actually take these characters and teach them what it is like to go with the flow, to try to surrender to a higher power, a divine source, a spiritual source, right? And then you get the series of book 1 in the cartoon. Much of the time, the big series finale, Aang doesn't save the day. It is the spirit of the ocean that saves the day, right? And you have Yue, the sacrifice, this emotional sacrifice, this water element, sacrificing herself to becoming the moon spirit, the moon, pulling the water, right? All these kinds of things are tied into the same thing. The spirits saving the day, the spirits doing these kinds of things, right? All you needed to do with season 1 was do that, is talk about the emotionality of all these characters, specifically 2 main characters, because that is also what Avatar: The Last Airbender is about. It is the journey of Aang and it is the journey of Zuko. These are the 2 biggest characters in the series, I would argue. So if you're going to bring that into this season and you want to try to condense all of those episodes, you can leave out all the Earth King stuff. You can leave out all the earthbending stuff. That's totally fine. You get Aang in here. You get him waking up. You get him realizing what his actions actually may have caused or not caused, and him dealing with the turmoil of that, and him trying to learn how to be a kid, but also learning emotionally how to let go of things, how to heal, getting in tune with his spirituality, getting in tune with his powers, just really contemplating and accepting the fact that he is the Avatar and he has a mission. And what is that greater mission? And on that mission, he's there with Katara and Sokka, who are learning about their journeys and healing their family dynamics of the father going away, the mother dying, all those kinds of things. Maybe Sokka having a little bit of resentment towards Katara because she is the reason why the mother was killed, things like that. You could have done something interesting there with the emotionality, the complex emotions of the characters. Zuko, again, facing that emotional turmoil of being abused by his father, being ripped away from his mother, being ripped away from his homeland, and feeling like he has no other choice other than to capture the Avatar in order to return and restore himself into his homeland. All of that is all water. Teach the main themes of letting go and embracing spirituality and healing the self. That is all season 1 had to be about. You didn't need to do any of the Earth Kingdom stuff. You could have left all that out if you wanted to condense it. And then when you go into when you go into season 2, then you do Earth, the element of Earth. What does the Earth element represents? Being grounded, having the resilience, right? To deal with the physical world, surviving the physical world, becoming resourceful, right? So you got season 1, they're learning about how to heal. They're learning about how to give way to the spirits, the spirit world, all those kinds of things to heal, all those kinds of things, to be emotionally available for each other, to build strong bonds, familial bonds. And then you go into Earth 2, a little DC reference. Then you go into book 2. Now they've already established this close-knit, watery bond. Now they get to say, okay, now we get to put our test to the metal and go out into the real world and figure out how do we bring this vision to the world? How do we do this in a tangible setting, in a tangible world? And Aang goes to the Earth Kingdom and goes into this realm of learning earthbending and having to now ground himself in a physical reality, because he's already done this emotional world. Now he's got to ground himself into the physical, right? Which is a hard thing for him to do. And he gets to see the harsh realities of war, the harsh realities of all these people in the Earth Kingdom. There's corruption everywhere. There's poverty everywhere. There's a wealth gap now. All of his friend King Boomy is now kind of crazy and he's captured or whatever by the Fire Nation. He doesn't seem to be doing anything. All these kinds of things. There's corruption. There's the Dai Li. There's all these kinds of things. They meet, Haru. They meet Toph. That's when you can really start to get into the reality of the world and to say that it's not so easy dealing with these kinds of big issues. It's not so easy. The solutions are not that easy. And Aang and Zuko both have to learn all these new perspectives that are coming to them through their physical experiences of traveling the world in this new world and that they're not used to, and getting to see all these different perspectives, getting to see what people go through on a day-to-day basis, and the brutality of war, the brutality of the Fire Nation, all these kinds of things that brings them down to earth, that grounds them into the real world. That is what book 2 can be about. And then book 3 is, okay, well, now when all the chips seem to be down, right? Now then we don't know what to do. The season 3 is fire. Fire is the element of creativity. Fire is the element of drive, passion, the spark of hope, the spark of interest in intrigue and motivation and inspiration. That's when you get all of that stuff of finding out, okay, well, how can we come back from this horrible reality, right? How can we actually face these things? Then you go into all the inspirational stuff. Then you go into all of the him of learning about fire and the destructive force of fire, but also that it is life itself. It is creativity, and it is about creating and bringing warmth and bringing a spark of hope to the people around the world and uniting them against the Fire Lord and all those kinds of things. That's what you can do if you want to break it up into 3 series and to cram it. Just take the themes of those episodes and put them into the perspective books, the perspective seasons. But this series, it just didn't do that. It just took season 1, condensed it with a couple of main characters, and then just tried to pump it out really quick. Everything felt rushed. Everything felt like it was silly. It just didn't make sense. Everyone looked like a cosplay. King Boomy was an absolute joke. There's just so many things to say about this series. You're just going to have to watch it, I guess, for yourself. But just maybe you liked it, maybe you enjoyed it, but I was certainly disappointed by it. Yeah, that's what I will say about this series. Let me know what you think about the live action Last Airbender. Again, I loved the music, loved the visuals, loved the bending, loved the fight choreo. I loved Momo and Appa. I loved Fire Lord, Ozai, and Suki. I thought Cabbage Man was the best part of the whole show. I loved the nod to the players. I did like that they had Sokka and Katara go with Aang to try to fight some of the ships initially. But my goodness, it was a hot mess. Super rushed, horrible writing, bad acting all around. You got a couple actors trying to do their own thing, but again, a lot of them missed out the core essence of the characters, and that I think is the biggest detriment. So let me know what you think. That is my Last Airbender recap.
Anyways, sport my Fire Nation outfit. I'd love to be an airbender, but I know I'm a firebender. What is your bending? You can also let me know that in the comments so we can see who we have the most benders of in the comment section. So are you a waterbender, an earthbender, airbender, or a firebender? I'm a firebender, and
Flamio Hotman. Until next time.